Hey y'all, welcome back. Jason here, Echo Nesters. And if you've been following along with us, you know this is Dirty Dolly. She's our 2025 Winnebago EKKO built on that Sprinter chassis. If you're just now joining us, thank you, and we hope you stick along with us on our adventures, travels, tech tips, mods. So today, we are going to be doing a little minor mod. We've done this in our Transit EKKO previously. Now it's time for Dirty Dolly to get the same protection and treatment. So what do I have here? This is basically a silicone, I'm going to just call it a shower dam curb. And what it's designed to do is actually go along, let's call it the curbs of showers or tubs and whatnot, and help deflect water and keep it from the overflow. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, you have a shower pan in here. You've been using it all along. Why all of a sudden is this important? Well, it's not just become important. It's been important. We're just now getting around, I should say, to getting it done. So one of the things I want to point out before we get started, will you order this from us or we leave you a link through Amazon? When you receive it, you're going to get a little X-Acto knife, typically, a little marking pen, which is erasable, and then the company also supplies a particular silicone. However, I'm just going to go with my go-to. We're not sponsored or branded by DAP or anything. It's just something I use in the field quite a bit. Take a little picture of that. Seems to work well. And as you're getting set up for this, you're going to need just a few things. If you didn't order it from us or Amazon and you happen to find your own version, make sure you have a good X-Acto knife or something that you're comfortable cutting with, because you're going to have to trim it to fit. The other thing that's important is that you have a hair dryer, not a heat gun. You do not want to apply a heat gun to the curb. I'm going to show you what we're doing and why we're warming some things up. And you definitely don't want to apply a heat gun here. So I tend to use the dryer, or the hair dryer, I should say. The other thing that you could have is some denatured alcohol and or just a mild cleaner and some rags or paper towels. And I'll explain why here. In the very beginning here, when we're going to prep the area, one of the first things you want to do is bring the coach up to a nice temperature, maybe between 68 and 72 degrees. If you're unable to do that, that's where the hair dryer is going to come in and allow you to warm the curb surface. This acrylic gets quite cold, and when we're going to make contact here with our shower curb dam and the adhesive, we want it to bond really well. So typically I would wipe this down with some denatured alcohol, let it dry, clean up. If you don't happen to have any of that, you just get the soap scum and any other items off. I usually just recommend a little mild cleaner. You're going to scrub through, just kind of get everything well prepped. Once you feel pretty confident in that, either let it air dry or just kind of buff it dry with another dry rag and or paper towel. So preparation is key and important, but really what you're trying to do is just get rid of any oils or soap scum or any debris, if you will, so you get good contact with the adhesive. Now, the next step is to prepare your shower curb dam. This happens to come as a 36-inch. We really don't need 36 inches here. We're going to trim it to fit. Before I do that, one of the things I like to do is kind of figure out where I'm going to start from. So let's talk a little bit about that. As Michelle's able to pan the camera around here, I want to point something out on the inside here. You have what's called, I'm going to refer to it as the door frame right here. And as you notice the door frame, it's got a little bit of a lip here, and we've got where it gets a little bit narrower. So let's say that I'm getting ready to bring my shower dam up and I bring it all the way here. One of the things you're going to notice is if I place it here, we get a little swimming pool back here and we would end up trapping water. So for Michelle and I, what we discovered is if we bring it back just a little bit past that metal lip there, it will allow the water to continue to drain off. We can get a little caulking in there. And I feel like that's probably the best fit, at least in our opinion, in our case. You may discover something different. Now, as you make your way back down here, and I'm going to refer to it to the latch side of the shower door, again, you're going to notice that there is a point where if you bring it too far around, you could end up trapping water back here and creating, again, a little bit of a swimming pool effect, which is going to defeat the purpose. So what I like to do is just kind of bring it back to this corner, just where I can make contact. Sometimes people will want to bring it around, but I would say avoid the swimming pools, if you will. So right about here again is going to allow that water to run off. Now, there was a gentleman in one of our last videos that pointed out that he chose to stop his right here at the door. I think that's okay to do as well, and I'll have Michelle step out and I'll explain why I would not argue that point. Let's go ahead and pan the camera up here to our shower curtain. So you'll notice in the EKKO, at least the Sprinter EKKO, that your shower curtain draws around this way. So in theory, these are the areas we're typically trying to protect. And obviously, when you're showering, this door will have made its way over here. We might as well just demonstrate that just in case you don't have an EKKO and you're curious. And this would be the environment you're trying to protect. Now, the other thing you might be picking up on, I'll have Michelle bring the camera down here, is that the curtain has good length. It's actually touching the floor. However, it's been our experience that not all curtains are created equal. We've seen them where they're slightly raised above, they're a little too short, and sometimes they're too long. So I don't rely on the curtain to protect that part of the shower curb. What I'm relying on is a little bit more, I'm going to just refer to it as an insurance policy to keep the water deflected. So I'm going to move that away. Now, let's talk about the height of this curb. I should call it the shower dam curb that we're going to install, and what we'll refer to as the lip here, how much you have. The tape measure, and this is here just so that we can pick it up together. So I'm going to remove my nice Inhabit mat. We love this, by the way. That makes everything cozy. We'll get the bamboo floor cover out of the way, floor mat. And just for reference, what I'll do is I'll just pick the tape measure, and we'll take, that looks to me about 1.5 inches plus minus. So right here on the rolled area here, the shower curb, you got about 1.5 inches. This here is technically 1.97 inches. We're going to call it 2 inches. So by placing this here, I've added another 2 inches. So we're about 3 5/8 curb height now. That gives me a little more confidence. Now, again, some of the things that you might be considering as you're watching the video as well, if I've got water pulling up and it's gone up that high, we have a different problem. Absolutely. You'd have a plug drain, you'd have something going on, or your gulper pump's not engaging. However, again, this is more to deflect the water and give me a little bit more peace of mind, because as we step in and out and water deflects off the shower curtain, you don't want that raw water rolling down here. Sure, you got a metal base. This is sealed to some degree. We're trusting the folks that installed this. But if that water gets down here to the carpet, the floor, and gets underneath, you can create rot, mildew, mold. And those things don't usually get discovered until it's a little too late. So let's start installing this and getting things started. So again, I've explained where I'm going to pick my starting points. And what I like to do is the erasable marker, which I just had. Aha, there we go. Sure, you can do that. And then I like to just kind of make just a reference line, just like that, because this will erase, come off really easy. And then as I'm making my way again towards the latch side, I tend to just hold it in place, come around here, and what I'll do is I'll make a little bit of a line, but I'm going to make it a hair longer than the intention. And that gives me a little wiggle room to cut and adjust. So next steps, y'all. What I like to do is get a good cutting surface here. You don't want to damage your countertop. If you happen to have one of these Inhabit mats, you definitely don't want to cut through that. So I've got my line, my mark here. I've got my X-Acto knife, and you obviously want to be very careful with this. And I'll get it just firm and secured. And what I like to do is just come just naturally down into it. Let it kind of fall into place. Tip it up, get that last cut, and call it good. So we're just about there. Again, you're just being very careful and cautious so you don't cut yourself. Retract that. Now, what I typically do is I come back and I just do another quick check, see my lengths, make sure I'm pretty happy with them, and believe it or not, that was a perfect cut. So that was unusual because sometimes I trim back here. Now, before we get started, you may be observing that the area that we compress at the ends here, it's open. What I like to do, and again, this is just the adhesive caulking, the bathroom caulking that I choose, is I like to try to fill that void. I'm obviously not going to fill the entire unit, but I will put some here and get some here. Just get a nice generous amount. What I'm really trying to accomplish with this is basically closing that door, that opening, if you will. And you don't have to get this too perfect right now, because once it's installed, you're going to have the opportunity to kind of play with it a little bit more. So as you can see, we're just kind of closing that area off because I don't want water to get trapped in there later on. So I'm going to do, actually, we're just going to do one end, and then I'm going to show you how you can do the other end once it's installed. I'm going to put these goodies away, and we're going to get the tape peeled back. But in the meantime, I'll clean my hands. All right, y'all. So just got done warming this up. It's a little chilly where we're at, and we kept the heat cut off so that you guys could hear us a little bit better. Now, this is not the piece I'm installing, but I did want to point something out before we get the rest peeled back. Positioning, if you will, your shower curb water dam. Some folks, they like to go totally forward. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that. I'd put mine about midway middle. It allows, if you will, the adhesive band to get centered here on the, I'm going to just call it the curb wall. And then also, it allows me to put just a small bead of caulking along this line once it's installed and get it really cleaned up. So for me, that's my point of reference to where I would put it if I were y'all and where we place ours. Again, some folks will move it all the way back. I've just found that that's a good location. So next steps here. Remember, on one side, we have a little caulking going on, so we want to make sure we don't get it on our floor and whatnot, is we're going to go ahead and peel back the protective film because the rest of that's pretty tacky. Now, I pull mine all the way back, and as I'm getting ready to get started, again, I'm coming up to my little mark, my blue line, getting centered as best I can. The nice thing is you have a little margin of time here to get it set. I'm centering it and just kind of walking along here. I'm not applying a lot of pressure yet because I want to get it set just about where I want it before I really give it the lockdown. Now, once I feel it's where I want it to be, this is where you're going to really press down. Sorry for bumping the camera there. And you're going to give it really good force. You're going to push on the wings, if you will, and get that down there. Now, one thing, and we're going to fire up the hairdryer, you could do is, again, shower curb's a little cold. I'm just getting that adhesive active. Now, here's what's really cool. You might be wondering if this is going to hurt your foot stepping in and out. So far, it hasn't hurt our foot. Whoops. Well, we'll demonstrate it after it's locked in. But believe it or not, you can compress this right on your foot just like that. And it's very pliable. Doesn't seem to hurt us. And so far, it hasn't been a tripping hazard for us. I think like most things, once you've negotiated a space enough, you tend to get familiar and it just becomes second nature. So mine is adhered down. And I think what we're going to do is go ahead and caulk this inside corner. And I'm noticing too that along with what I've done is I must have left a little bit of wet surface here because this corner is not bonding quite as well. But this is where my adhesive caulking can come into play and I can press down and make a good bond. Now, after you've done this and you've gotten yours installed and you're happy with the fitment, I'm recommending for at least 24 hours you don't run any water or get any of this wet. I don't think it's so much the adhesive part, it's more about letting your caulking do its job. So I'm going to have Michelle step back out because I want to give you guys a little tip here that I just noticed something on. All right, so one of the things you want to do, why we're talking about this and protecting things, is maintenance. As you notice, there's a caulk line all along here from the factory. It's always good to check that. However, when I come down here by the perimeter of the toilet, you're going to notice that there's a small gap that's uncaulked here. That will not affect positioning the toilet because this is stationary. So this is where this particular type of tube is going to come really nice into play because I'm going to be able to squeeze this around, follow the perimeter, which I would not be able to do with a caulking gun, and clean that up. So I'm going to go ahead and caulk the other side, run a bead here, and we'll be right back after that so you don't have to watch me do the simple stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and run a little bead of caulking right along the base there. You can see where it pulled away. That means there's a little bit of water. There is some moisture, which is fine. We'll get that all cleaned up and make it look good. There's so much pressure with you guys watching. No. So some folks will get their finger wet, just a little tip of it, and then they'll run right along here and just get, now we'll put a little bit more in there in just a moment, but let's just keep a nice clean line. And this will be friendly for you in the beginning while it's still fresh, but once it gets set, it's there for not ever, but for a while. So again, don't be afraid. There's no real mistakes to be made here. Put a little bit more in there. Make it look good. Fingers wet so we can get a good guide here. Clean it up. And definitely be careful you don't get this on anything. And the other thing I'm going to do, just for my own peace of mind, I'm going to run a little bead right back in here, turning the corner. This is where it's going to get a little tricky because you got to kind of get your hand around there. And I think there we go. I'm just going to clean up the edge here a little bit. So as mentioned earlier, sometimes this is a great opportunity to get a little maintenance going here. So I'm going to run a nice continuous bead right around the toilet here. And again, I'm just finishing that off with my finger, just getting the caulking pressed into there and creating a nice seal here. So I'll continue to do that here in just a moment. But the reason that I think that's important is even when the door is closed and you have the shower curtain going, oftentimes we're not parked on perfectly level ground. The other thing is the shower pan is intentionally designed and or tapered to go towards the drain. Water does tend to get back in these areas. I'm sure if you have an EKKO or some other vehicle, water just finds its own way, a path of least resistance, if you will. So anytime you can protect, do things to keep the water and the infiltration of that out, you're protecting, preserving, well, I would say your home or what you love to travel in. The good thing is, even though we're putting this in a Winnebago EKKO, any RV that you have where you have the opportunity to raise the curb height of the shower and or tub entry, that's a plus. Even at home, people will use these. So don't think this is just for an EKKO. It can be used in anything, your trailer, your RV, your recreational vehicle, you name it. You probably could have them up with some more fun uses, like you could run it around the perimeter of your sink too. No, I wouldn't do that. But at any rate, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to finish up here, clean up, hit the like button, subscribe button, leave a comment, and just tell us what you think. If you got some other ideas, we'd love to hear them. Cheers.
So keep watching our channel, subscribe so we can
Click the button, yeah, thank you.